Okay guys, let's go through this read and respond. If you're paying attention, it's going to also help you with your slides that you're working on later for the Bill of Rights. I will label each one as we go through so you'll know which particular amendment this is talking about. So pay attention and listen for the amendment you've been assigned. So, the Constitution outlines the working of the government, but not the rights of the states. Congress wanted to get the Constitution ratified by the states, so it made good on its promise to add amendments that would outline some of the rights of the American citizens. So this is talking about the Bill of Rights in general. The first 10 amendments that were added to the Constitution became known as the Bill of Rights. In general, these rights were idealistic, and they were probably more importantly reactions to English practices in the colonies. The Founding Fathers wanted to ensure that the citizens of the United States would never be victims of tyranny again. So the Bill of Rights, this is just in general, Bill of Rights, are the first 10 amendments. And they outline rights of people. If you read this, it ought to help you with your answer choice. All right, question number 2. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. This is amendment number 1. This is what it actually says. So you're assigned number 1, you're here. Now let's read it. Not all speech is protected by the First Amendment. The Supreme Court and the states have decided that there are restrictions to free speech. In 1919, the Supreme Court decided that someone may not yell fire in a crowded theater just to be funny. The First Amendment protects the freedom of press, which means newspapers, newscasts, magazines, journals can report on negative information about an event or an individual, as long as it's truthful. But they can't print something false about someone else, libel and slander, though laws about this differ from state to state. States are also regulating obscene language, which means it's just really bad words. All right, so then you look down here and you're going to decide what's okay. Obscene means a bad word. So it says it regulates, so you cannot say a bad word. And so right here, swear we know means bad words. You cannot make threats. You can't say fire in a movie theater. They did decide that. Not okay. So if you read down, you should be able to figure out which response is the only one that makes sense. All right, next page. Come back up here. You kind of shift it up a little. There we go. All right, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is number 2. This is what it actually says. And let's see if we can translate it into our words. The writers of the Constitution believe that people must have the ability to protect themselves and fight back against the oppression of the government. Today, some people argue that some of these original reasons behind the Second Amendment no longer apply. Others argue that the right to protect yourself is the really central idea of the Second Amendment and that guns are necessary for self-protection. Either way, the United States has the highest rate of gun ownership in the world. So there's an argument here. Some people say that this amendment is about owning guns. And some people say that this amendment is about having the ability to form a militia, meaning you'll make a little army that's not paid, just like we did when we were the colonists and rebelled back against. Oops, sorry guys. So hopefully this will give you a little bit of an idea. So we come back to this underlined sentence. Some people argue that some of these original reasons behind the Second Amendment no longer apply. It's a pretty big conversation. If you watch news at all, you'll see these sorts of things. The big thing is this. We are no longer under Great Britain. Do we really have an oppressive government? Do we really have a reason to have to fight back? but other people are you. You should always be ready in case you need it. All right, next amendment. No soldier shall, in a time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner prescribed by law. All right, this is amendment number 3. Comes back to what the British soldiers did to us. This amendment was a direct reaction to the British Quartering Acts, which we learned about, which allowed the British soldiers to stay in the colonists' houses. The Third Amendment now seems rather out of place among the other amendments. It has never been the basis for a court decision. And that's a really important sentence right there, because if you're assigned amendment number 3, when you go to your slide, I ask about court cases, you literally write this down. There's your answer, because there isn't one. So, when you think about the Third Amendment, you have to realize that it all happened because those British soldiers were making their way into the houses without permission. All right. Next amendment. Number 4. The right of the people to be secure in their homes, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. Here, those words are important. Shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person's things to be seized. This is amendment number 4. This is what it actually says. You've seen this if you watch any kind of Law and Order. So, the Fourth Amendment protects people from the government or law enforcement's unnecessary search and seizure. The term search can refer to many actions: a search of a suspect's home or computer, a DNA test, or a police officer frisking citizens. Seizure is when the government takes an individual's possession. Items that the government seizes can be used as evidence in a case against the suspect. Seizure also is used to refer to the government taking possession of an individual. Okay. So the main principle of this amendment, here we go, is that any citizen may be accused of a crime by the state, so that the state must ensure their legal protection. The amendment prevents police and the courts from using illegally obtained evidence. It also, it allows for limits on police when they are investigating a crime, but there are certain types of searches that citizens are not protected against by the Fourth Amendment. For instance, schools can search students' lockers for evidence of a crime, even though a student may consider the locker their property. It's because it's on the school grounds. So if we kind of go through our choices, this does make it harder for the police, usually, because they have to have a